Vincent slowly rubbed his eyes as he stepped onto the lift to take him down to his apartment. Things were either moving much faster than he expected, or much slower than he hoped, and he honestly wasn't sure which. He just discovered the first other live human since being rescued from the worms, and yet wouldn't be able to talk to him for another few days, since he was needed to stop whatever plans the wardens had in motion. Not to mention, he needed to find and free his mother from whatever suspended animation they had her in. After all that, there might be a chance he could find how the worms had abducted them, and then get home. Home? Shit. He'd thought about it, but he hadn't seriously considered ever seeing Earth again until now. How much time had passed? Would he be sought for killing Eric? Would he be thrown in jail? Would they consider him a hero? He'd changed a lot in the past year. Here he was interacting with some of the most powerful figures in a Xeno nation that spanned hundreds of worlds and billions or trillions of citizens. Would introducing humanity to the Union lead to good things? Bad? With their tech, they could seriously help Earth. But humans might have a very easy job working into the Union power structure than using it for their own gains. What would the AI make of a whole species like Vincent? Would they want him to become a sort of ambassador? Would it split humanity? Would they have to deal with some sort of civil war regarding being accepted into the Union or staying apart? He sighed as he tried to think it over before stepping off the lift. These were not the sorts of things he'd ever set out to discover. Hell, it was just a fluke that he'd ended up here in the first place. Who could have predicted that a lone worm experiment would go from a simple detective to, whatever he was now? An important detective? Then again, the wardens had expected it. This whole plot had been set into motion through his year here. They'd been planning for it. Did they know something he didn't? Or did all of this revolve purely around the fact that the AI considered him a resource and not a person? As he tried to contemplate these things, he walked down the hall to his apartment, but when he saw some Vernek standing in front of the door, he paused. The Xeno hadn't seen him yet, and he moved quickly to get behind the Xeno before the Vernek could react. Vincent gripped the Xeno by the back of his neck, Magnum poking into his back. "Who the fuck are you?" Thurman Mills, please don't kill me. You told me to find out about the black blood dealers. The Xeno looked ready to piss himself in fear, closing his eyes and whimpering a little as Vincent recognized the kid who'd run from him a few days ago on the tram. He let the Vernek go and holstered his weapon, watching the kid slump a bit in relief. "I told you to call me. How'd you find out where I live? And why show up?" I gave some info to your secretary or whatever. She told me to come here." The kid still looked nervous, but less likely to shit his pants in fear. Vincent frowned, though, as he tried to think about who his secretary might be. Either way, he opened the door to his apartment and shoved the kid inside, before stepping in himself. "Karana?" He called out and saw the Xeno lean out of his room with a smile. She was wearing one of his big shirts and had something else on beneath it, but he wasn't sure what. "Good, you're back, and your little informant came just in time." She stepped into the main room, and Vincent watched Thurman's head track the tail of the other Vernek as it lifted the back of the shirt up. Vincent gave him a good shove to make the kid stop ogling his... whatever Karana was. Shit. This was a whole new problem he hadn't even thought about. He'd deal with it as soon as the kid was gone. Speaking of, why'd you tell him to meet us here? Vincent followed Karana into the kitchen as he watched her frown at his fridge selection and then pour herself some juice. "He has information I thought could be useful. We'll need to take him to meet the team, and I didn't know when you'd get back, so I told him to meet here." Vincent was eyeing the kid as Karana spoke, and then back at her when she was done. She looked him in the eyes and then tilted her head towards the kid. "So, Thurman, what do you have to tell me that is apparently worth inviting you to my home?" Vincent said as he approached the kid and motioned for him to take a seat, while Vincent leaned against the edge of his dining room table. The kid looked nervous once more, now that he wasn't examining every curve of Karana he could see. "I don't know. I just did some research on who the dealers are near the universities, like you said. I don't think there was anything all that special." He looked from Vincent to Karana, and then back. He didn't look like he was being smart, which meant he wasn't the one who made some sort of connection. Well then, Karana, what do you think is so important? Vincent glanced over at the Xeno as she sipped up the juice from his fridge. The Crunchies. They're university students who preach a lot of things. They talk about helping the lower sectors a lot. I've heard them speak before. They're well-meaning, but stupid. Every time one of them came down to my old neighborhood to try and help, it wasn't long before they were taking the nearest lift back up. But... She looked at the kid, and then back to Vincent with a little smirk. It seems they've got a new teacher. Is that what you're talking about? The kid asked, and Vincent arched a brow. A few months back, some big program got started up to try and help the lower sectors. Like, an actual program, not just Crunchies wandering down there. And a lot of people signed up, but it was a disaster. I don't really know how, I just know it sucked. But one thing did happen. Some Ortillian came up and got sponsored by some big Crunchy supporter. He started talking a lot and got lots of support. Then he started some sort of speaking event for private guests and has all kinds of support. Crunchies talk about him like he's a prophet or something. They've been fundraising and volunteering like crazy for a chance to meet him. Vincent looked back to Karana with a questioning look, since he didn't make the connection. A prophet? Or perhaps a preacher? No fucking way. He looked back at the kid. Do you know where he is? I've never met him or anything. He is always in this private estate next to the Gersvin Academy in Sector 6. Few people are honored enough to get in there. I only know about it because they say some of the Crunchies sell black blood to help the fundraising efforts. The Vernek shrugged. Who is he? Someone I need to introduce myself to, Vincent said as he rubbed his chin and nodded at Karana. Very good catch. Is there something you can change into before we take him to meet the team? I didn't exactly bring much with me last night. She giggled a bit and shrugged. I'll just put the same dress on. It won't be the first time I've worn the same thing 2 days in a row. Of course, with the workout I had last night, I'm not sure it'll fit right. To be honest, I'm glad I could still walk this morning. Vincent blinked. The kid stared hard. Karana sipped the juice as she clearly enjoyed their reactions. Yes, Vincent finally said. Well, that we can talk about in private, if you need some time. No, I'll go change. She drank the last of the juice, set the glass down, and swayed past. As the kid tried to turn his head and once more follow her tail that was still holding up the back of the shirt, Vincent reached out and firmly rotated the kid's head to only look straight at Vincent, before wagging his finger at the suddenly once more nervous informant. When Karana exited his room once more, she was wearing the dress that was glowing neon colors. It really did change the colors and patterns as he watched, so it wasn't just the drugs last night, but it was quite tight on her, and he couldn't keep the kid focused for the entire journey. So instead, Vincent pulled the kid up by the back of his shirt and made him walk in front as Karana fell by his side. Now, Shade. He's just admiring your company, Karana murmured, but Vincent didn't let the kid turn around and follow even so. Did she know his name? He couldn't remember if he'd actually told Karana his real name. She hadn't asked, and perhaps it wasn't important to her. He wasn't sure. He glanced at her from the side of his vision for a moment. They walked to the lift, and he could see some of his neighbors looking awfully confused, as he had company for the first time ever. They rode it down to level 10, and he saw the facility from the night before. Day from before? There was some old sign that was covered up next to the entrance, but the gate was open. He'd have to figure out setting up some sort of security soon. The pool made him realize it had been a very, very long time indeed since he'd last gone swimming, but that would also have to wait. They approached the big building he'd found the party in before, and this time found it to be much quieter. The first floor had some sort of reception area, but no one behind the desk. The large area they'd hosted the party in had been mostly cleared of people, but there was plenty of trash left behind. It wasn't until they walked up the stairs to the second floor that they found everyone. Some were asleep on the cots, Others were sitting at makeshift tables with what looked like cheap folding chairs for seats. They didn't notice him at first, each little group continuing with whatever they had been doing when they arrived. He was about to call attention to himself when someone else beat him to it as they fired a Talon rifle into the ceiling. His magnum was out in a second as he saw Frey at the edge of the room. The Xenos were scrambling, some grabbing weapons, some just waking up. "Most of you would be dead already," the satyr said as she began to walk down the room. "The shade here might be able to come back, but none of you sorry shits can. You volunteered for this program and have been handpicked by me. I know you've all got experience, so why the fuck didn't any of you think about setting a watch? Monitoring the entrance to the facility? Shit, no one was even watching the door." The various Xenos glanced between Frey and Vincent now, finally noticing their new boss. "From now on, someone has always got to be watching while we're here. We might get some help to keep the place secure down the line, but for now there's just 12 volunteers, 1 Yervesh, and 1 Shade who have guns. We need to put them to use." She smiled at Vincent and stopped in front of him. "Glad you finally got back to us, boss. I was worried someone might have stolen you." She smirked a bit and glanced at Karana, who giggled. "Shall I introduce you?" Vincent nodded. "That would probably be a good idea. I don't want to be shouting out, 'Hey you, the fat one,' in the middle of a firefight." He paused then and looked over the Xenos before him. There were certainly more than 12 people here. "I'm guessing not everyone is part of the program that Kuyina authorized." "Her office allowed us to pick up some people we need for general support, but I'll introduce you to the core." She looked at the others and growled, "Get into a fucking line!" There was some general chaos for a moment as they tried to arrange themselves in some sort of fashion after the satyr had growled at them. Frey nodded to the first 2 in line. Ermani, 1 male, 1 female. They were on the thin side compared to Kov and the lady who sold him the gourmet rat. "Tishna and Porstiv, husband and wife. They came very highly recommended from the Lodistov." They nodded to him. Tishna was gray with a silver shimmer to her, white along her hands, just a bit of black on her face. Porstiv, meanwhile, was more of a chocolate brown with bright red streaks along his face and hands. "Shade, we saw you work when you came to visit. It'll be an honor to serve," the female Tishna said. "You give us a chance while many in the Union do not," Porstiv added. Frey moved on to a Vernek. He looked a bit more worn than most of the smooth-talking Vernek Vincent was used to. "Rensk, he used to own a restaurant near some of the clubs in the lower sectors." "What happened?" Vincent asked. "My partner got hooked on black blood. I didn't want to talk about it, but you've got me, and you've got Burge here." He reached up and slapped the side of a Gurgat, who was next to him. Vincent eyed the mountain of muscle warily. Usually, Gurgats were either incredibly peaceful or exceptionally aggressive. It seemed like Renz could sense Vincent's unease. "He was in an accident when he was a kid. I do the talking for him. He does the punching for me. Trust me, he's solid." Vincent nodded and moved on to Frey. Next were 2 Howlers. Ortillians. Did they not like being called Howlers? He'd ask privately later. They were both bigger than Vincent, but they looked a bit young. "Huns and Luns, brothers, more importantly, cousins of Mong." They grinned. "She told us she'd rip our heads off if we didn't join! I figured it would be better to be fighting for the good guys and not get our heads ripped off!" Vincent didn't know which was which, so he laughed and nodded before moving on. Now he came across a Xeno he wasn't familiar with. He looked down at what seemed to be a goblin made out of coral. It had jagged rocky features, but it looked more aquatic to him than anything else. Otherwise, the short frame and sneering face made him think of a goblin more than anything else. "This is Jibanzrat Nup. I'm just going to call him Jib. Based on your expression, I guess you haven't met them before. They're Nurmkasfat, very handy with machines and explosives." The Xeno grinned as explosives were mentioned. "Why is it that small creatures seem to be fascinated with blowing things up?" Vincent asked. "Well, I'm not going to kick them to death now, am I?" the short Xeno said with a laugh. Vincent nodded, and then looked at the next 2 who he also didn't recognize. Well, he did, but he didn't know the name. They had a mix of avian features and a sort of elven appearance, as if an elf got dressed up as a carnival dancer down in South America. Bright plumage, some sort of webbing or wing along their sides, like a wingsuit, and tail feathers as well. They looked a bit frail to be fighters. These are our pilots, Nivala and Fimi. They used to run smuggling operations, but have recently been looking for honest jobs. Black blood dealers killed our old boss. He was a good man. He didn't deserve what happened. The one he thought was Nivala said that. I'm not familiar with the species, Vincent commented. Akrivan. There are a few Akri subspecies. We're good with flying. We don't need computers as much as others since we sort of glide and know how it works, Fimi said as she gave her arms and the wings a flap. When their arms were down, it was loose and colorful. When they stretched their arms out, it went tight, and you could see a whole pattern of feathers. Vincent nodded, noticing the end of the line before looking back to Frey. The others? Well, you've met Karana, I believe, and me, and Mong, Frey said with a smirk. Vincent quickly did some mental math and nodded. Where is Mong? She's still recovering. It'll be about a week, but I wouldn't even dream of replacing her. Then she'd rip my head off, Frey said with a laugh. What about Harmacad? Vincent didn't see the Yervesh among the assembled Xenos. He, went back to his apartment with some guests last night, Frey said. Guests? Plural? Vincent asked, and caught the others snickering a little as Frey slowly nodded. Vincent shrugged then. Do we have some sort of command room, or any place to discuss tactics? Because I've got some information here that we're going to act on right away. He gave Thurman, his informant, a pat on the shoulder. Frey laughed. We don't really have anything like that at the moment, but we can get something up and running soon. But it's not going to be anything quick. Is there anything else you can do in the meantime? She asked. Karana tapped his arm. Why don't we go take a look at the place? It won't hurt to get some layout and a general idea of what we're dealing with here. Sure. Vincent nodded. I'll do some reconnaissance and then return with more information. Frey, I'll leave you in charge while I'm gone, although I'm pretty sure you made yourself in charge anyway. The satyr grinned. Old habits die hard. What about the rest of us? One of the Ortilians asked. I just said I was putting her in charge. That means you'll do what she tells you, Vincent said as he arched a brow. But what if she wants us to do chores and stuff? I thought we were here to beat up the bad guys and clean the streets, the others said. Vincent walked down to stand between the two Xenos, looking up at them while doing his best to make them feel small. If you're told to do chores, then you fucking do them. Beating up bad guys and cleaning the streets takes a lot more than cracking skulls. If you can't follow shitty orders you don't understand when it involves cleaning up our new HQ and getting it running, then I have no faith in you to follow shitty orders you don't understand out in the field. And shitty orders you don't understand will be coming up a lot until you're old enough and experienced enough to know how to command your own team. Until then, I expect you to do whatever your superior asks of you. Is that fucking green? They jerked up straighter as he barked at them. Green is green, sir! They shouted in unison. Vincent eyeballed them a while longer before finally stepping away. Frey, is there an armory here? I didn't bring my mask and I feel like I might need it. One level up is what used to be the lab. There are some secure crates in the corner. The one with the Firebird on the side has your stuff. I think you'll figure out the code pretty easily, Frey told him. Vincent nodded and let Karana get whatever she wanted, while he headed up a floor. He found the crate she had mentioned and wondered what the code was, before he sighed and pressed 8 twice. As the box opened, he figured he should change the code to the prison room, in case someone just kept hitting 8 on that one like he had. He was pulling on the mask he had found inside when he saw Karana walk up the stairs with Frey. The satyr spoke first. I've got them starting to clean up. I'll organize them more in a minute, but I needed to show her the crate she's looking for. The satyr opened up a crate without any markings on it, and Vincent peered inside to see a number of little trinkets and strange devices, which he soon recognized as surveillance bugs. What are these for? I figured I shouldn't change my clothes just yet, Karana murmured as she began to select a number of the devices. The kid has a source that he thinks can get me into the building. I figure this might be our best chance at getting some better info. Make sure it's the right prophet. What does your dress have to do with this? Vincent asked, not liking where this was heading. I'll be the kid's date. Now hold on a minute. Vincent started. You've got nothing to be jealous about. Karana quickly cut him off, but Vincent went on. Who's jealous? I was going to say the moment they see you with a scruffy tweaker like that, they'll know you can't be real. The girls laughed at his comment, and he smiled beneath the mask. Soon Karana had what she needed, though, and he headed back down to collect the informant, before they headed back out the building, and yet again to the lift. How far is this place? He asked, unfamiliar with the location of the university. It's a bit of a walk. We should actually catch a tram before we head up on the lift. And you'll need to tail us from a distance, Karana said. What are you talking about? Vincent wasn't a fan of that idea. We have no idea when they'll start watching people in the area, and you're going to get a lot of attention, especially on the train. She chided. Vincent let out a sigh before nodding. Fine. The university has a library not too far from the estate. You should be able to see us from there, Thurman said. Karana pulled one of the devices she had from the small purse she was bringing along and activated it, clipping it onto a bracelet she was wearing that Vincent hadn't noticed before. Had she always been wearing it? He'd been pretty fucked up last night, but he didn't remember it then. Or earlier. She pulled it up to her mouth. Testing. He heard her voice echoed in his mask and nodded. Sounds good. I'll drop back. He stopped and let them walk a ways ahead, before he started to follow once more. Leaving them the better part of a block in front of him, it took them a good half-hour to get to the tram station, and they were right. Once on the tram, everyone was staring at him. They got off at the same stop an hour later, as he had watched them from a distance, and everyone else gave him space and tried to stay away from him entirely. Then they were catching a lift up to the university. He spotted them walking one way, but the library was straight ahead of him. A little nervous, but still ready to trust Karana, he made his way into the library and found his way to the 4th floor. There was a park of sorts next to the building, but he saw Karana and Thurman walking towards what looked to be a walled-off section of campus. When he realized the entire thing was the estate, he whistled softly. Someone wealthy owned that place. Someone very wealthy. It wasn't a Sector 1 palace like Mach had, but it certainly didn't lack for a garden and grow lights, not to mention security. He saw the prevalence of cameras around the place. As he watched Karana and Thurman walk to the entrance, he saw the kid wrap his hand around Karana's waist and heard her talk on the comm. Getting a little handsy, don't you think? She asked. Hey, you're supposed to be my girlfriend, right? Gotta make it believable. Vincent grumbled a bit as he could hear the playful tone in the kid's voice, now that he was out of immediate beating range from Vincent. I could still break your arm, kid, Vincent warned, before realizing they didn't have a way to hear him, and he just broadcast that over his normal channel. Creature 88, is something going on? He suddenly heard. Hello, Cavazor. Forget it. I was just... Don't worry about it. Shit, you didn't need this right now. Okay, look, Vincent frowned as he heard the Urvesh stammer a bit. Cavazor wasn't one to mince words generally. Yes? He asked. It's, about, do you, Now he was really confused. When had Cavazor ever beaten around the bush like this? Any time today, Cavazor, Vincent muttered. I kinda turned on the screen in your apartment last night, after we had calls of screaming. Vincent was quiet. Are you there, Creature 88? What did you see? His confusion had become worry about what had been seen. And... didn't those screens record? Well, a lot, Cavazor confessed before Vincent gasped out. What the fuck? What did you want me to do? It was that, or call in a patrol team to see what was going on? Vincent closed his eyes as he thought about his neighbor complaining about screaming. Christ. It was just in the main room, right? Please tell me there isn't a screen in my bedroom. Vincent wanted to rub his face, but couldn't with his mask on, and settled for banging his head against the library window. There's a screen in your bedroom. Fucking hell, Cavazor! Who saw it? Just me. But all our communications get logged, and Supreme Council Chair Kuina ordered that file to be sent to her office. So I'm assuming she'll delete it, and so it'll be just me and her. Vincent groaned heavily and smacked his head against the window once more. He had a feeling she wouldn't delete it. He was about to say something else when he got more on the bug. Fine. Head on in. Just stick to the main areas for now. It was a voice he didn't recognize. Hold on, Cavazor. I'm dealing with something. I'll talk to you in a bit. He focused on the bug then. Things were quiet for a moment, then suddenly he saw a small video in the corner of his vision. He selected it and made it take up most of his vision to better observe. Karana was swaying away from wherever she'd stuck the bug. He saw a number of Xenos. They looked like college age mostly. A few howlers here and there looking out of place. Karana began to move, and Vincent watched what almost looked like some sort of complicated ballet or performance dance. She slipped between crowds, waved, rubbed, or giggled her way around, and he got the feed from bug after bug. No one stopped her as she kept moving. First from the main room to some secure areas, stopping off in a bathroom that she'd been told was only for staff, and then moved on to the next even more secure area. Vincent watched this progress for about an hour, before Karana and the kid were walking out of the building. No one inside seemed to be any wiser. He needed to get back down to them, but he was busy at the moment watching a howler talk to a satyr in gray armor in one of the private dining rooms near the back of the estate. So, it's set. The new prototype is, yes. I don't have much faith in it, but if he's as good as usual at whipping the crowd into a frenzy, then the people will simply eat it up. That was the satyr. I'll let him know. He's been in a mood since the shade escaped a while back. He expected more from the crowds. Remind him that we don't need him to try and get the shade killed. That's not the objective here. Just tell him to build up as much hatred for the Irvesh as possible. All right. I'll tell him to prepare his next sermon. As they split up, Vincent couldn't help but smile. I've got you now, fucker. His triumphant moment was ruined, however, as he heard Cavazor. I swear it wasn't my fault. I had no idea what I'd find. Vincent sighed. He had to set that straight, but then he'd meet up with Karana and then get his team ready to take the preacher down. He knew the bastard would be living in the lap of luxury, while telling the people to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Vincent wanted to see the fucker's reaction when he came knocking, magnum in hand.